When will Left 4 Dead 2 die? This is a question I've asked myself every now and again for several years now, and that is just solely because everything eventually does die. But funnily enough, Left 4 Dead 2 has managed to surpass a variety of different tests that life has presented and is still around. And I want to talk about in today's video why that is the case. Why is it that after all of these years that Left 4 Dead 2 has not died and is still around to this very day? Left 4 Dead 2 is one of the most critically acclaimed zombie games and just video games out there in general. Left 4 Dead 2 has sold millions of copies and has actually gotten so popular that it actually is still played to this day and has even got its own brand new update for the first time in almost a decade with The Last Stand. This is something that is rare to see, but is definitely really well deserved if the game is actually in that good of a state. It should deserve to end up getting treated well, because just because something is good now doesn't mean that it shouldn't be able to improve and be better. Now, when it comes to video games, this is not always the case, because believe it or not, it's only been in the recent last few years that video games actively get updated. Back in the past, anywhere from like a couple years ago to even as far back as a decade ago, the idea of getting a game to be updated for you once you bought it was a novelty. It was a very rare thing. And usually what would happen is that you would have to buy a brand new copy of a brand new version of that game to get the update that was so-called, needed. And with games, nowadays, it's a subscription service where literally we have games on demand. We can end up updating them as much as we please. There's tons of different patches, hotfix, DLC packs, everything you can ask for. And the funny thing is that even though that's the case, a lot of people truly don't realize that. Let me ask you guys a question. Why did you decide to start playing Left 4 Dead 2? Why did you decide to start doing anything, any particular activity? It's because it met your needs. There are 6 human needs that every single human being has. It doesn't matter what gender you are, race you are, age you are, where you grew up in, what your standards are. Everyone has these needs. But however, though, the one thing that is different amongst all of us is what needs we prioritize. Let me summarize these really quickly for you guys. These are the basic human needs that all of us have on a daily basis. There is a need of certainty. We need to feel like we're secure and have some sort of sense of safety and almost kind of comfort in our lives. But ironically, we also need uncertainty. We need variety so we don't get bored, and so that way we can be able to entertain ourselves. Significant. We want to feel like what we're doing has a purpose and that we can actually be celebrated for it. We want to feel like we're awesome. We want to feel like that we're funny. We want to feel recognized for what we do. Love, affection. We all want to feel loved and cherished by our friends and family. Who doesn't? Love and connection. We all need to feel that we're loved and appreciated in our lives and that we have some sort of sense of belonging or a relationship with somebody else. The people also need to grow. You need to feel like a sense of growth is in your life, because otherwise you're going to feel like you're dead inside. You want to get smarter, you want to get stronger, you want to get quicker, you want to be more wittier, etc. And you want to lastly contribute all of these to the world. You want to have a sense of contribution because you can share it with the world. Because as much as some people might look at that and be like, oh, that's corny, it's the truth. No matter who it doesn't have to be like a public act. You don't need to be Oprah or Mother Teresa. But you have little small groups or little small bits of people you do this with, don't you? Might be your parents, might be your siblings, it might be a best friend, it might be a coworker, etc, etc, etc. But you share. You don't just keep everything to yourself unless you just genuinely happen to have a lack of trust with people. But there always is somebody, even if it's one person, you want to share your successes with, and even your pains with, ironically. And guess what? One of these needs was met for you by Left 4 Dead. Left 4 Dead is a game that could have brought in you significance. You might have felt like you were a god at it. You could have felt like you were amazing at it, and you wanted to show that off. You could have felt like that you had a sense of connection and caring from the characters because you could relate to them, because maybe they reminded you of somebody, and maybe they were actually kind of giving off this vibe that made you feel welcome. You could also have a sense of contribution. You could feel like, hey, I'm not only teaching people how to get better at this game, but I'm also showing my friends how to get better at this game. Growth. You feel like you're growing. Certainty. You feel like you can play this game consistently because it always is a game that you're good at and you also like it and you like the atmosphere, etc. It's basically comfort for you. And even variety, because the game has a director that constantly changes the gameplay, so even though it's familiar, it's never quite the same, which means that you have a sense of never getting bored. And for some people, this can end up being a multitude of needs that are met. Some people, this can be every single need that is met. And it really just depends on the person and what they prioritize, because some people might prefer one over the other. We all need them, but it's the order of operations. And you want to have a good example of this? This is actually very prominent with the release of the Last Stand update for Left 4 Dead 2 and Back 4 Blood. Because if you take a look at both of those things, Back 4 Blood releasing was actually a way to allow people to have a sense of nostalgia, but still have some sort of new experience. Because what it does is that it takes something that you're familiar with, the general core similar ideas of what Left 4 Dead's essence was, but twisting it so that way it had new things such as the card system, guns having attachments, maps basically being all in a row and being chronological so that way you could be able to play one giant massive campaign, etc, etc. But there was enough familiarity where there were special infected that had similar powers, there was characters that had a whole bunch of very similar traits to the Left 4 Dead crew, etc, etc, etc. Now, that is going to be appealing to one audience, where the Last Stand update appeals to a different audience. That's people that are more of purists, and they kind of like to have things be a certain way, so people want to much rather have a sense of nostalgia and kind of like a sense of certainty, and basically make it where things don't change too much, where it feels too different. Because that's the thing with games getting updates now, is that games don't exactly ever die, but they can definitely feel like different games. Because if you look at a game that you have played in, like, let's say the last... I want to say like a couple weeks. If the game is regularly getting updates, it's probably not what it was like a few weeks ago. And a good example I can give of this is a game like Fortnite. Because if you take a look at something like Fortnite, Chapter 1, Season 1, when you first played Fortnite in 2018, is nothing like Fortnite Chapter 3, Season 1 the way it is right now. Because the reason why is because they're essentially basically different games. What they did is that instead of making a brand new game, essentially making Fortnite 2 or Fortnite 3, they just updated the game. But the thing is, though, is that a lot of developers fail to realize that even though, yes, technically it is the same game, if you change it too much, it almost feels like it's a sequel that doesn't have a prior game. It's like the other game that you once fell in love with just ceased to exist. It's kind of like if you were to, in a weird way, get like a clone version of somebody you know. It's like they're the same thing, but they're not. It's really hard to explain. The little minute differences are really noticeable to you because you played it for so long, and you notice that, and it's very, very prominent to at least you because you know what to look for. Now, I can't say whether or not the Back 4 Blood is going to die prematurely or even when it's going to die. And same thing, I can't say whether or not Left 4 Dead is going to die or whether or not Left 4 Dead is going to be alive for much longer, if it's going to start going away soon. I don't know, for example, if the console servers will shut down, the PC servers will shut down, maybe even both. It really is just going to depend on whether or not Valve wants to pull the trigger on that. But I do want to end up putting kind of like a seed out there and just kind of plant it in everyone's minds, including yours that are watching and those that are actually working with Valve, maybe perhaps even some of the modders, because they have been helping with the Last Stand update. When it comes to Left 4 Dead, this game is extremely popular, and it's not going away anytime soon, I don't think. With the Last Stand update, it shows that at least the PC version is going to be around for quite a long time. Console may be a slightly different story, because right now, console's even having issues trying to buy and install the game, because right now on the Xbox, unless you have basically an Xbox 360 with the original disc, the game is just not working. You can't buy it, you can't run it for some reason. A lot of people are actually having bugs. That's why I had to make a video a while back how to get around this, which, by the way, if you guys do just generally have issues with that, you can always check that video out, link down below in the description. But when it comes to that, that's not really a good sign, because it's kind of showing a lack of interest about whether or not the devs want to make the game better, and that's not good. Now, when it comes to Microsoft, I don't know how much influence they have on the console version of Left 4 Dead 2 comparison to Valve, just handling it directly through Steam. Maybe there's some sort of negotiation or agreement that like was lapsed or not met or something, because it's only been an issue for people as of recently, and this shouldn't have to happen. You know what I mean? So the only logical way to keep Left 4 Dead and Back 4 Blood, and just basically anything we ever want alive, is basically by supply and demand. There was definitely a lot of demand for that Last Stand update, because they didn't make it for no reason. You don't make a whole bunch of brand new assets and maps and achievements and repurposing old scrap content with voice lines and making new gun models, etc. You don't do that just because you want to. You do it also because there's other people that want you to. Left 4 Dead 2 is consistently played on Steam almost all the time. Like, for the longest time, it has been like a top 20, 30 game regularly. It's ridiculous. Now, obviously, you can say more or less, it's never always in that exact spot, but Left 4 Dead does constantly keep re-showing its face in the top few video games on Steam, and there's a reason for that. The game is just a naturally good game, and it meets a lot of people's needs. Because not like the game only does one, because if it did that, then it would only meet so many people's needs, and that's why there would only be so many players. That's why a lot of these other games typically fail, because they can only ever really meet one particular crowd of people's needs. But Left 4 Dead does all of them for everybody. This is what I think is going to happen. I think that Left 4 Dead 2, on the PC version on Steam at least, is going to be around for a very, very long time. I think that the Xbox version is going to also be around for a very, very long time, but I do think eventually PC will overpass it, and I don't want people on console to think that I'm trying to diss console version of Left 4 Dead, because that's not the case. I actually started out on the console version of Left 4 Dead, guys. I still play. In fact, actually, the gameplay is a prominent example. I went back and got this gameplay on my Series X just for you guys to prove that I still do play the game, and I do have interest in the game, because I just love Left 4 Dead in general. And I know what it's like when you don't have a PC or any sort of expendable money to upgrade and move on, etc, etc, etc. I get that. I really, really do. And what I want to do is something for everybody. So this is something that I want to suggest. Just like the idea of Black Ops 2 Revival Day, where a whole bunch of people in the Call of Duty community went back to revive Black Ops 2, I think that we should do a exact same similar thing where we try to get people to come back to Left 4 Dead 2. Let's try to schedule planned days where a lot of us are just online at any given time, so that way we can all be able to play with each other. Let's try to obviously do this for every day, but let's try to narrow it down to be a little bit more specific, just so that way we know and can expect when to be online, rather than just troubleshooting and guessing. Secondly, also as well, is that I want to suggest that we all end up trying to get in contact with both Microsoft and Valve in some form of capacity, perhaps maybe even like a hashtag on Twitter, maybe a email to them. I think that honestly a lot of different ways could work, because regardless they'll still see it. The general idea is we're trying to show them that we care, and that we'll definitely gladly play these games for as long as we're allowed to. Because eventually, even though hardware will go, our Xboxes will red ring, our discs will dissolve and break, our accounts will eventually just get shut down and just be a memory that's in the back of our minds. We all want to try to make things last as long as possible, but the only way we can do that is ask. The world is not something that is just going to be sicked upon you, and you have to be at the very mercy of it. We do have a lot more influence than we all may realize. As long as we remember our reason why, there's nothing that can stop us. If we prove to Microsoft and Valve that we love this series, we're gonna get more reboots, we're gonna get more remastered, sequels, spin-offs, support. So guys, what I want to basically do as a call to action at the very end of the day here is I want to suggest that all of us, regardless if you're already doing it, keep it up and kudos to you. But let's all try to promote people to come back onto Left 4 Dead 2, encourage it online, encourage it with your friends, be like, hey, you haven't played Left 4 Dead 2 in a while, why don't you give it a try again? Or, hey, my friend, there's this really cool game that even though it's old, I think you really like it. I think that would be a really, really cool idea. Let's get people to not only get back on, but join the Left 4 Dead 2 community. Same thing with also even the spin-offs. I mean, you guys might not truly all like it at the end of the day when there's a spin-off or reboot of a series, and that's fine. But the good news is with these spin-offs and these reboots, they actually will help in turn promote the original idea in the first place. I always have thought about it when it comes to Back 4 Blood. With Back 4 Blood, sure, people might think I'm supporting the game. That's true, but I'm also supporting the idea of that type of game, which means Valve can look at that and be like, hey, you know what? Turtle Rock brought back the general idea of Left 4 Dead through this spin-off. Let's bring back the actual Left 4 Dead because they see it working in real time. That is my goal at the end of the day. And at the end of the day, guys, this is going to be today's video. If you guys want to check out any other Left 4 Dead 2 videos, there will always be a end card at the end of the video. And if you guys want to see any particular video in the future, just let me know via the comment section down below. If you guys would like to financially support the channel, I tremendously appreciate if you guys could go check out my Patreon. It's always linked down below in all my YouTube video descriptions. Or you guys could use supporter creator code BlackNinja797 in all caps in the Fortnite Epic Games item shop because Epic is my very first sponsor, and they're sponsoring today's video, so shout out to Epic Games. And yeah, guys, I hope you end up enjoying seeing another YouTube video from the most unique YouTube videos I'm ever going to see. Thank you for watching, guys. I love you, and peace out.
Hey, meme lords. Jesus here. And you better have enjoyed that video there by the eternal god Daddy Ninja. You should probably subscribe too, or the mighty Moab will come for your balls. If you enjoyed the video, you might like it too. And give me the memes. Flash, bang, boom!